to have gotten the result they were looking for. And even parties that went backwards were celebrating backwards as an achievement. Having said that, we are very strongly of the view that we have amassed over 630,000 votes. We have footholds in different provincial legislatures and the National Assembly, places where we've never had a platform before, where we can now fight for the South African people. But importantly, we are the biggest new party outside of MK, certainly, and creating the largest base in that rational centre of South African politics. And it was for that reason why we needed to sit down as a Senate and begin a process of self-examination. I'll tell you one thing, Action SA as an organisation does not blame voters for our outcomes. We introspect, we examine, and we are willing to do so in a self-critical manner. Because ultimately we remain convinced that Action SA is not just as important as it was a couple of years ago, it's even more important. We are entering in a phase where the official opposition is offering their support to the government, and the question is going to start to emerge as to who the opposition is, who's going to become the watchdogs when those people who are benefiting from positions and privileges and perks find themselves conflicted in holding the government to account. And this becomes an important question that the Senate of our organisation has been seized with. In particular, we will undergo a lengthy process of campaign introspection. The Senate has resolved that we will start a process of a 360-degree view of our election campaign, particularly involving the South African people. We would like the South African people to talk to us about our campaign, what they want to see more of going forward, what they want to see less of going forward, so that we can adjust and ensure that our campaigns in the future are ultimately guided by the people to whom they are directed. This process is also going to involve a roadshow. We will, as a leadership group, be embarking upon a roadshow to the structures across our country. These are the men and women who have volunteered their time so generously to the cause of change in our country. I don't think anyone will ever understand the sacrifices that are made by Action SA volunteers right across the 9 provinces, but they don't do what they do like other parties because of access to job and power and resources. They do what they do because they love their country, and we are indebted to them, and we look forward to engaging them and getting their views on our campaign going forward and how we can ensure we move forward in the best possible light. The Senate has deliberated, quite deliberately so, on the subject of the 2026 local government election, most notably because it is just 2 years away. An astonishing thing for those of us who are still recovering from a national provincial election that hasn't even found its way to inaugural meetings. But let us be clear about something, and certainly our Senate has been clear. South Africans suffer from a crisis of local government, almost you could say far more than any other. South Africans are living in sewage. South Africans do not have a stable supply of water. Their electricity supply is unreliable, even outside of periods of load shedding. And these are constitutional crises being created by local governments that are failing, that operate with impunity, and that provincial governments have given up on holding them to account, or the internal politics of balancing factions of political parties comes before the accountability of failing municipalities. We believe that this is the vital nexus of the change that is required in South Africa. And in many ways, what we experienced in this election is many voters who said to us, don't come talking to us about those issues, talk to us about our water, our sewage, our roads and our electricity. And this is why the 2026 campaign becomes such an immediate point for Action SA, and why you would have noticed a statement issued yesterday in which the President and myself have declined taking up seats in the Parliament's provincial legislatures so that we can focus full-time on the work of growing this organisation, travelling the length and breadth of our country, but also doing so knowing that we have an incredible team of people in Parliament with a great deal of skills, diversity and experience that we know are going to fill the vital role of becoming the unofficial opposition in South Africa, which is what's going to be required when the opposition is doing a deal with the government. And I think the reason why many of you are here is to hear about our position going forward relating to other political parties. And let me address that question now. The Senate of Action SA has deliberated on the question of our relationship with other political parties, and we can communicate the following outcomes right now. And the first is that Action SA has made the decision that we will be leaving the multi-party charter for South Africa. And I want to read to you the resolution that was taken by our Senate so that you can understand exactly what we have done. It reads as follows. The Senate of Action SA at a meeting held on Tuesday, 4 June 2024 notes that 1. Action SA entered into the multi-party charter for South Africa on a good faith basis once the DA committed to the declaration of intent in Section 7 of the multi-party charter agreement. This was the section that specifically ruled out any working relationships with the ANC. The MPC agreement has been seriously breached by political parties, plural, that have contravened the declaration of intent in Section 7 of the MPC agreement. 3. Action SA remains steadfast in its public commitment to be an alternative to the ANC and redoubles this commitment today in an environment where the opposition space has abandoned by opposition parties planning to coalesce with the ANC. And therefore, the Senate of Action SA hereby resolves to exit the multi-party charter and communicate our reasons for doing so to the South African people. And I think you would have heard a number of those reasons mentioned so far. I would also like to say that from our point of view, we are strong of the opinion that we made our commitment in the multi-party charter not to other political parties, but to the South African people. That was what that commitment was. Many of you will remember the press conference in which we signed the multi-party charter. It was done publicly in front of the South African people. It was a commitment to the South African people. And we are very clear of the fact that we have never reneged on our commitment. We have remained steadfast in our commitment, but we cannot in good conscience remain part of a multi-party charter that is failing to live up to that commitment. We would also like to make the following remarks as it relates to Action SA's ongoing relationship with other political parties. The first of which is that Action SA looks forward greatly to a period of time in which we will stand on our own 2 feet. We will be our own political party. We will not be tethered to other political parties, and we will end the era of Action SA being called this party light or that party light. Action SA is going to be Action SA. We're going to be the best Action SA that we can be, and we're going to take what in many regards is the most exciting and reasonable offer for the South African people, and we're going to go around the country and deliver that offer unencumbered by any people who we may call partners. At the same time, we remain unequivocal that our commitment to providing an alternative to the ANC precludes us from any possible governance arrangements with the ANC. We note other political parties that do, and that is their right. But going forward, what you're going to see is that Action SA is going to spend much less time talking about other political parties and much more time talking about Action SA and the offer that we bring to the South African people. So those parties are free to do as they please, that is their right, as we are free to do as we please. And what we please to do is to live up to our commitment to the South African people to be an alternative. And in an environment where other political parties are reneging on their commitments and offering votes that were won around change in South Africa and giving those parties those votes to the same party from which we need that change, we are going to remain true to our commitments and stand alone in that regard. And we will be the unofficial voice of the opposition in Parliament, because we must be very clear. Political parties that receive the gifts of positions and perks and privileges in Parliament, even in the opposition, are now bound in perpetuity from the government from which they receive those positions. And when the time comes for accountability, they will face the conflict of interest in terms of what they do in those moments when accountability is required. And what we say to the South African people today is that we will not be conflicted, and we will ensure that there is accountability, recognizing how important that accountability is going to be going forward. From our point of view, this is an ongoing process that our Senate has embarked upon. It is the start of a process that is going to take a number of weeks, but we are very clear that we have much work to do ahead of the local government election, and being the party that South Africans need us to be. I think two observations further that you might be of interest to know. If you look at these results and the split ballots and the split voting that took place in this election, far more people voted for us on provincial ballots than they did on national ballots. South Africans see us as a party that is strong this way, and that is something that we are going to dig into and capitalize on as we approach this local government election, where so many South Africans suffer from the manifestations of local government failure, while working on being a stronger voice nationally, because we want to correct that image as well. And I can tell you, with the team of people that are going to Parliament on behalf of our party, I think as leadership, Herman and I are blessed that we can have such strong people that can go ahead and do such excellent work. And we can know that South Africans will be in excellent hands in that regard. The last point to make, as I think some of you may raise this as a point of interest, is the question about what this means for the city of Tshwane, in which we are currently in a coalition with various political parties associated with the multi-party charter. And what the Senate of our organization has concluded is that we are not going to punish the residents of Tshwane because of what other political parties have done. I reiterate what I said to you earlier. When we enter arrangements, we enter them for the residents and the people of this country, not for other political parties. But at the same time, we make it clear as if the DA is going to do a deal with the ANC, and if that deal is going to extend across tiers of government, as we are reading in the media, then we invite the DA to replace us with the ANC, because we will not in good conscience be involved in any coalition that involves the ANC. And we will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning everyone, and thank you so much for making the time to come and listen to us after a grueling week. I guess as Michael has already indicated, I think we all very tired, including you guys in the media. I think actually the last few days you guys worked much harder than us, because you had to operate on a 24-hour basis, and we live in a country where there's no country in the world where every hour there's breaking news. So you guys are in a really very difficult, weird situation, but you've always handled it with distinction, and I think keeping our democracy alive. You remember very well, colleagues from the media and people of South Africa who listened to us, to Michael, Lerato and I last Friday at the press conference at The Rock, that a Section SA, there's just no way that we can claim we're happy with the results. I mean, we wanted to have performed much better, but at the same time, we've got to really look at it in a proper context, looking at all the other parties who's happy. Except the MK and a little bit of PA, but everyone has received really the kind of results that we did not expect, and we wanted more. But at the same time, as Section SA in the reflection, when we had our 2-day start session, I think we needed to actually look at ourselves in reflection in good faith. And when we looked at this outcome, we actually we accepted this result with great pride. Great pride in the sense that here's a 3.5-year-old party. Party launched during COVID, but at the same time, we're a party that's today represented in all 3 spheres of government, at local government in a big way. Now represented in national parliament with 6 real outstanding candidates. Actually, our marching orders to our team is that, guys, you 6 of you, but we expect results of 60 members of parliament. You must go out and box like you 60. The opportunity does exist for them to go in the box in that way, because we are going to really be the real alternative for fighting for the people of our country. So as much as, yes, we did not achieve what we wanted, but I think we need to really we must not be hard to, on ourselves and really accept these results with great pride. But I think what's important is for us to express our gratitude to the South African voters who voted for us. I think it's very important. Also at the same time, our volunteers, our activists, I think it is because of them that Action SA could receive such outstanding results. At the same time, also, members of the media and our funders, people who had confidence in us, assisting us to give us the necessary resources to really be able to achieve the kind of historical results that we have received. So, yeah, we're excited to going to the National Parliament with the 6 real professional people who would really be able to represent the people of South Africa, because they're not there going there to represent Action SA. They said you must go there and represent the people of South Africa. It is for that reason Michael and I decided to step back to say, look, there's a lot of work that still needs to happen in this country. Local government elections are around the corner. And as you can imagine, the scale of local government elections. Please bear in mind that in 2021, we only contested 6 municipalities. So this time, we have to really go as wide as possible. And you think putting structures in the 9 provinces was a lot of work. Yes, it was. But you can imagine at local government level. And local government critical because it is at the cold face of service delivery. So for me and Michael to be in government, we thought it would really be a bad idea. If we are serious about serving people of this country, let's send a team that can represent us. We are not the only 2 people who can really deliver for people of South Africa. No, we have to really demonstrate to people of this country that it is not about our stomachs. I think I take myself as an example. I'm sure all of you as members of the media and people of South Africa, I don't get paid by the party. So even going forward, I'm not going to be a liability to the party. I've got to rely on my family to really be able to survive. But at the same time, I can tell you and assure people of South Africa that they're going to see more of me than they've ever seen me before. My commitment to this country, because of the outcome of these elections, makes me much more resolute and much more determined to find a long-lasting, sustainable solution for future generations. Because if you look at the outcome of these elections, honestly for me, and a lot of people I've spoken to, we are nervous of this outcome. Because these results have actually demonstrated election results on politics of identity. I think for me, as a South African, I thought 1994 we buried politics of identity. I so eloquently remember, and I have a picture of Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, paid their fortune from one of the greatest photographers in this country. Got him in my TV room, of 2 great South Africans I so dearly admire, Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. Nelson Mandela actually taking a long-term view of the kind of South Africa that you want. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu came out with the concept of a rainbow nation, something that actually took the world by storm and made us as proud people. But here we are, 30 years later. South Africans on their own, without HFL vote, coming out with cohesion and force, people of South Africa voted on the basis of identity. It is for that reason, for us as Action SA, we said, this is not going to happen under our watch. We've got to do everything possible to ensure that politics of identity are dangerous for this country. If you look at the history of the world, the countries that are at war, are at conflict, it's because of politics of identity. We've got to really be the party that, if you remember the core values of Action SA, which I'd really like to share with you, that we are unapologetic about them. We stand by those core values. The first core value of Action SA after the People's Dialogue, when 2.4 million South Africans gave us the mandate to start this party, they said, please, if you form a party, it must be a party on the basis of an ambition South Africa. And this result does not, this current latest result does not demonstrate that. Yes, we need to, obviously, as part of our discussion, is to really look at why people decided on their own in a democratic environment, decided to go and voted for politics of identity. So we've got to really engage them. It's for that reason that that one needs to really be focused on. We need to create an unbridled society for future generations. At the same time, we're a political party that believes in the rule of law. Just for an example that you might think is small, but for us it's big. Michael has just announced us pulling out of the MPC. We signed that agreement in front of people of South Africa through the media. We signed that agreement with full commitment to the spirit of that agreement. And one of the agreement that I think for us it's very serious. The fact that we committed not to entertain any negotiation whatsoever with the ANC. I'm sure it is there, everyone, that agreement it is available. And at the same time, we are saying we agreed in that it's part of that agreement. We said any party after the election, it is up to them to really take whatever posture or decision that they take. But if you take that decision, then you must resign from the multi-party charter. So no one is actually forced to really be part of the multi-party charter. So we were surprised, taken by absolute total surprise, when parties started negotiations without obviously respecting the constitutional commitment that we made to the people of this country. So we're the first party to say, okay, fine, some party have decided to go and negotiate, and it is their right. And I think if you look at it, it is their right. We cannot really stop them. But at the same time, for us as Action SA, to remain in an agreement where some of our members of the multi-party, they are in breach of this agreement. So we want to formalize this. We don't have to cry like babies. We don't want to be cry babies. I think we want to do what is right, is to believe in the rule of law. Right? Let's step back and allow these political parties to have the freedom to what they want, because we don't really stop them from negotiating with any other party. But if we had an agreement that we'll never agree with entertaining any negotiations with the ANC, and as you are aware, negotiations are underway. And these parties have not resigned from the multi-party charter. So they are in breach. And I think for us as Action SA, our belief strong is that were we betrayed? Do we feel betrayed? Absolutely not. People who are betrayed are people of the other South African people. They're the ones who have been betrayed. Because political parties, all of us, went out on a massive campaign on the basis of not working with the ANC. We signed that agreement in front of the people of this country. So we believe very strongly in the rule of law. So that is just to really give an example of how committed we are to the rule of law. I can go on and on issues of the rule of law. One of the core values of Action SA is ethical leadership. You know, I was born and raised where, as I've said many times before, and I'm happy to repeat it here today to you, that my grandfather taught me and instilled in me and demanded of me not to stand on the fence. He always reminded me all the time to say, my boy, if you stand on the fence, you're going to fall and you're going to hurt yourself. So rather be on the ground. But when you're on the ground, you must understand no one is going to like you. That's fine, but you just need to do what is right. So ethical leadership is something that I think it's lacking in our country. And that is why there's this massive trust deficit between politicians and civil society. Civil society don't really trust us as politicians. And can you really blame them when there's no ethical and moral compass in our behavior? We're the kind of society where we say one thing and we go and do something completely different. If you look at the kind of leadership that has have been running this country over the last 8 years, it really leaves a lot to really be desired. We don't want to compromise on the ethical leadership as an organization. And we're a political party also that believes in free market economy. We've always really maintained that we want to ensure that we grow the economy, and the only way you can grow the economy is through the private sector participation, and allow the private sector to operate in an environment that is conducive, particularly SMMEs. If you look at our unemployment, the world has never seen anything like this. We're having the highest sustainable unemployment rate in the world. And this is self-inflicted because we're not friendly to the business community. We focus on outcome instead of focusing on opportunity. We're the political party that wants to create equal opportunities for South Africans. In terms of the outcome, God has given us different talents. I cannot really see and understand why someone wants to force me to be a businessman or be a judge, because God gave us different talents. So we believe in equal opportunity, not free equal outcome. We also at the same time believe in social justice. You know, the other day, on last Monday actually, I spent hours in Alexandra. And I said to myself when I was addressing the community of Alexandra, I said, you know, in 1996 when South Africa adopted our constitution, we had the Bill of Rights. I see in this country, people of Alexandra and lots of other places throughout the country, they're better off in prison than outside. Because in prison, they are guaranteed of 3 meals a day. They are guaranteed of even voting to deciding the future of this country, while actually having broken that trust with society. That's why Action SA from day one, we said social justice is it's at the core of the formation of our party. We are going to not apologize to anyone, be pro-poor, but pro-poor on a basis of saying our people are going through a difficult time. And we are saying those who are privileged, let's work together to uplift, not to say everyone must go down. We are saying we want to uplift our people. So we are unapologetic for really being a pro-poor government. This is just to really share with you that we are not going to compromise on those issues. And these are the issues we're going to be taking out to the public. As it relates to the IEC, remember at the press conference regarding how IEC ran these elections, without any doubt, I think one does not have to really be a rocket scientist, that a lot needs to really happen. Lots of issues that they have. But at the end of the day, let us not really be a country that wants to plunge the overall country into chaos on minor issues that happen. Because in any given environment, I'm sure you know what happened in the United States. A country that's been running elections for so many years. You remember the outcome of the last elections. Even up to today, Americans are still dealing with this matter. But that does not mean that we must collapse the government. That's why for us as Action SA, we've accepted the results. As much as I can show you evidence of some of the cases where we believe we were done in, but at the end of the day, we really put the country first ahead of our own personal situation. But at the same time, what we are excited about is that we're going to have 6 national parliament representation, and we want them to go and raise this issue of the capacitation of IEC. IEC needs to be capacitated to be able to deliver better elections than they did this time around. They need resources, they need professional people, because they don't just really need money. They need to really make sure that they are capacitated properly. And our team is going to ensure that happens. But at the end of the day, we want the country to move forward. As Action SA, we accept the results as they are, to have been free and fair, and we want to really move on as a country. Yeah, I think in closing, I want to reiterate again, Michael raised this matter, and I raised it myself as to why Michael and I are not going to Parliament. I think it's important for other South Africans, on the basis of the things that I've shared with you, where South Africans on their own took a decision to vote along politics of identity. So that means there's a lot of work that needs to really happen. It is for that reason that this becomes a huge priority for me. I want to use my privileged position, because I don't need a parliament salary to survive. I don't have to really be a burden to our party to support me. But at the same time, I think I must use my privileged position to mobilize South Africans to understand the dangers of identity politics. So if I have to really go to Parliament, you can imagine I'm going to lose, whether I'm going to lose an hour or I'm going to lose a day or so. I don't want to find myself any day where instead of going to address a community meeting and going to attend Parliament, I'm going to really make a decision. I'd rather make that decision upfront to say, no, I want to go and attend a public meeting, and not really having to feel guilty that I'm missing my Parliament commitment. Because if I accept to go to Parliament, I have to go to Parliament and not fail the people of this country. So I don't want to really be put into that environment of making such a decision when I can see in advance. Because you can understand, if I go into Parliament, I've got to not only be in Parliament, I must serve in the committees. Now, that's what I'm saying is, I've taken a decision, instead of failing people of this country by missing my commitment in Parliament, let me use my privileged position. I'm choosing to go and engage South Africans, to unite South Africans, because this result is not the end of the day. It's the beginning of a new chapter for my country. And I've decided actually to pursue this route on putting my country ahead of everything and use my privileged position in that regard. And I'm really so confident working with Michael. I've had a privilege working with Michael as my chief of staff when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. That's how we met. And his work culture exceeds anything that one can ever think of. So I feel I have someone to really work with me to ensure that we can deal with this politics of identity. But at the same time, we are represented in national government, we are represented in the Gauteng legislature, we are represented in Mpumalanga, we are represented in the Northwest. So, and the work of preparing for 2026 has begun. So thank you very much fellow South Africans and members of the media. Then we leave it to you for any questions that you may have. Thank you very much for this opportunity.